Well, I've just watched The Little Mermaid, so you don't have to. The critics who told you that this was good or that you were a bad person if you didn't like it, they're lying. This is an objectively bad film. At one point, Sebastian suddenly starts swimming at 35 miles per hour for zero reason at all, other than the film needs him to go somewhere fast. Flounder is chided for being afraid of a bird that literally just ate a fish bigger than him in front of him. There is nothing in this film that makes any kind of logical sense. Prince Eric at one point begins singing in an emotional ballad that makes it appear like the man has serious emotional issues. Ariel, when she gets ready to sing on top of the rock and do the iconic rise and pose, she's gripping the rock like she wants to crush it with her fingers. This is a film that just cannot get anything right. All right, folks, welcome back. It's a beautiful Friday out there. Happy to have a Friday, aren't you? Well, I'm here to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we attempt to do each and every day here on the WDW Pro channel. Today, we are going to be talking about The Little Mermaid, the review. I have seen the film. Please note that I have not been negative about every single thing that Disney has produced this year. There were some Mandalorian episodes that received a good review. Guardians of the Galaxy, I gave an 8 out of 10. This will not be one of those times when I am positive. However, I also don't want to be completely negative. I want to give as much positivity as I possibly can. Unfortunately, that's going to be difficult. As we get into this review, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about the notification bell. Now, this is a tricky movie, and you all know it. It's a tricky movie because Disney has used ethnicity as a shield against criticism. However, I believe in telling the truth, and so I just have to tell the truth, and that's what I'm going to do. This is a movie for little girls, essentially. I can't imagine that it's for anybody else, and I don't know that it does a very good job of being a movie for little girls. Let's start with the positive first, though. I'll do my best. The positive that I have for this film is that it does a better job than the animated original in building out the character of Prince Eric. We actually have someone who is a somebody rather than just a stand-in for the masculine ideal. In the original film, Eric is essentially the masculine ideal. He is a stand-in for the dreams of young women who hope to find a prince, and he is little more. In this film, he is, well, slightly more. Not a whole lot, but he is slightly more. And so that's good. And you can tell that Halle Bailey and the other main actors are giving it everything they have. She's just not given anything to work with, and neither are the others. So let's get into what doesn't work, which you can tell this is going to be one, given that that's all I've got that's positive. But as I go through this, I'm going to try to explain it with specificity so that it doesn't just sound like someone who is just nagging a movie to death or being unnecessarily negative. So I'm going to be highly specific in this review, and I hope that will help. I hope it will help stop some of the criticisms. I don't think it will help stop all of them, but again, I just have to tell the truth. This is an objectively bad movie. It is not the fault of Halle Bailey. It is not the fault of the actors and actresses who are partaking in this movie. In fact, I can't think... Well, okay, I take that back. Let me rephrase that. It is not the fault of any of the live action actors that this movie is poor. They're giving it their all. You can tell they're all fully in character. I cannot say that about the animated characters that are in this. Sebastian, Flounder, and Scuttle. Flounder is okay. Flounder's okay. That voice actor does an okay job. Sebastian and Scuttle are just terrible. They're just terrible. And I hate to be that negative about people who have, I assume, tried really hard. I'll give you an example though, and then we're going to get to the real culprits behind all this, because this sucks that this movie has been used as a cudgel against society, and will be. It'll be used as a cudgel because there's no way it's going to do well. Having seen this, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe parents just won't care, and for weeks and weeks it'll do exceedingly well. But let's get into that, okay? So the example I have about Sebastian is when you watch the original and it does the Under the Sea number. It is a showstopper. People are still singing it 30 years later. It's colorful, it's beautiful, it's fun. Sebastian has a dynamic voice, goes low, goes high, is comical, has the accent, it's everything, it's the full package. Just a marvelous vocal job in the original. This Sebastian, every line is worse. Every single line is worse. It is more mellow. It does not have the dynamic range. Every time that this movie does something different than the animated film, other than with Eric, other than trying to flesh out the relationship between Ariel and Eric Moore, that's a positive. But everything else is worse. And it's not just worse in that they tried to do something different and it came off poorly. It's like they do things in this movie that you just look at and go, why? Why would you do that? We'll talk about that in a moment. Awkwafina as Scuttle is atrocious. Annoying and atrocious. And the song Scuttlebutt has no reason to exist in that film. It is like fingernails on a chalkboard. It destroys the time in which it exists in the film. It is terrible. Just terrible. Now, the real people, though, who are behind this, who have just screwed this film up, are the director, the choreographers, the CGI artists, whoever was supervising the CGI. Let's just put this out there. Everybody needs to understand this, because you might be saying, well, Pro, you just hate it because you want to hate. Listen, the CGI in this movie, and this is, by the way, this is why when I read what critics who have rated it positively have said, when they give this movie very high marks, or when one individual out there says that if you don't like the movie, you're a bad person, I can't see. I mean, it strains everything I have to understand how they could do that without purposefully setting up conflict. Because the CGI in this film, and it is filled with CGI. Thankfully, in the second act, you get away from some CGI. It's still prevalent. But the CGI in this film is the worst CGI that I have seen in a very long time. I would put this on the level of Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, playing the Scorpion King in The Mummy 2. And it does not stop. That example has him playing that part in awful CGI for a few minutes of that movie. This movie has, I don't know, 90 minutes of that. And what baffles me about this movie, what baffles me is that it's a complete there's so much of it that is a complete misunderstanding of how to do something. And in the domain of the CGI, it is just, I don't know how you could be this confused and be allowed to have this kind of budget. Let me explain. Like I said, specificity, right? What this film does that is mind-boggling that anybody came up with this idea. So you have the mermaids down there in the water, and they've got to sing, right? They've got to open their mouths and talk, and that'll look weird underwater because people don't talk underwater. So that's going to look weird. There are solutions to that. This movie went with a solution that I can't believe it still. The solution that this movie chose to do was to remove all bubbles, essentially. There's one scene where I saw a bubble. but they remove all bubbles. And I'm not talking about when people talk bubbles should be coming out of their mouth. I'm just talking about underwater, there are bubbles, and there are none in this. Because they decided that in order to make this look, I guess, like the animated film, sort of, was that these people are underwater, the mermaids and all the creatures, they're underwater, but water doesn't look like water. Water looks like air. And you might say, well, air doesn't look like anything. Well, it does. And you'll see it when you watch this movie. Because there's no water underwater. Water doesn't work like water in any way in this movie like you would imagine. And we have seen movies that have had people underwater. We've seen movies with mermaids underwater. We just watched Avatar: The Way of Water, which did an excellent job. This does the absolute opposite. But it doesn't stop there in the things that are just bizarre. So, that clearly does not work to have water that doesn't look like water. That's very off-putting. Now, the next thing it does, talked about artistically misunderstanding completely what you're supposed to do with this film. There are only a few scenes in this film that are colorful and bright. And time after time after time, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, why is it this dark? This feels like the nighttime scenes of Pirates of the Caribbean over and over and over. It is so dark. You're making a movie for little girls. What is going on? The movie starts off with a quote. The quote is like this dark quote that appears in text form at the beginning of the movie, and I thought, you're making a movie for 5, 6, 7-year-old girls, some of whom can't read that fast. What are you doing? It's just, and it's over and over. There's a scene where she goes into her hideaway where she's got all her human collections, right? And the camera follows her in. Of course, the camera, all this is CGI, so the camera can do whatever it wants. And the camera kind of drifts upwards. Like just drifts upwards where you can't see anything at all. And it's like the camera, if there was a camera person involved in this, it would be like they were drunk and couldn't point the camera where it needs to go. And I just, as someone who has worked in 3D animation in the past, I just watched it and went, why would you do that decision? Like, I didn't understand. And over and over and over, it's like this. Sebastian does not look anything like the other creatures. None of the creatures basically look like they're real at all, yet they're supposed to. It is just so weird. Let me give you some more examples of things that are just, you can't figure out how filmmakers could possibly come up with this. At the end of the movie, as we all know from the animated film, King Trident, and let's stop there. I have to talk about this. Guys and girls, King Trident looks it is the worst costume design I have. Oh my gosh, it is so bad. It is unbelievably bad. It looks so dumb. In underwater, it looks dumb. And then he comes above the water at one point in the movie, and you're like, go back under, dude. Please go back under the water. Please, I beg of you, do not come above the water. It is so bad. And how could I be specific about this? How could I be specific about what makes him look so bad? The wig and the beard are awful. They're just, it looks like dirty Santa, but like none of the parts of him go together. It's off-putting badly. But anyway, back to the last scene of the movie. Can you tell how I feel about this? Okay. So in the animated film, he points the trident at Ariel, but in the water, and the water glows golden, and then she transforms into a human, and that's what she wants, and he's going to miss her, and yada, yada, yada. Well, if you've never seen that, so let's say you're a child, or let's say that you're somebody watching this internationally, and you've never seen the original film, you don't know that that's supposed to happen. And this is just an example of horrible directing, horrible writing, etc. But he literally points the trident at her. Now, the trident has only been used to destroy stuff up until this point. And in the animated film, he puts it in the water, and the water glows, and it changes her, right? In this movie, if you don't know that, it looks like he's attempting to murder his daughter for the end scene. He literally points the trident like a gun at his daughter. And I just thought when they did it, I was like, how could you be that bad? How could you possibly not understand that? The ending CGI versus Ursula is terrible. It is awful. I mean, so the CGI, the directing, the writing, it is just incredibly bad. But like I said, Halle Bailey gives it her all. The relationship with Eric is better than the animated film, I think. When they're not in the water, it kind of works. The problem is, it works for about half an hour, and this movie runs for a lot longer. But legitimately, when it's just her and Eric on dry land, it kind of works. It's if that was the movie, it could be okay, but that's not the movie. In terms of McCarthy playing Ursula, I mean, she's not as good as Pat Carroll. None of the actors are as good as their animated counterparts. It's just flat out the case. Maybe the guy playing Eric is fine, and Halle Bailey does her best. But I don't see a reason to watch this film. And one of the ways that I determine if these remakes are good is I think, well, if the animated original did not exist, would this be worth watching? And I think that this movie, without the animated original, if it just existed and that had never come out, I think we would go watch this and say, what a weird, strange piece of crap that is. I mean, it just does not make sense. And I could go on and on. I could rip this movie a new one for probably an hour, just going through the fundamental misunderstandings of how to make a children's movie, or just basic filmmaking. This movie does so many things so poorly that there's no reason in the world it should do. And there just needed to be somebody in the room to say, you know, that's dumb. We should do it this other very simple way that won't take us any extra time and conforms to the normal ideas behind filmmaking that make sense, like where you point the camera. Or, it doesn't make sense for Eric to get engaged to a woman he just met. It doesn't make sense for that to be a big deal because it's an engagement. He can break it off. The original film with the wedding, that makes sense. This doesn't make sense anymore. But that's, they never came up with that apparently. So, but I also try with these films to look at, I'm not the demographic for this. So what will a small child, what will a little girl think about it? And I think that it could be an okay film for a small child. I think it could be okay. I think it'll be boring to them in large part. After the first time they view it, are they going to watch this or Moana? Are they going to watch this or Tangled? Are they going to watch this or the live action remake of Beauty and the Beast? I don't see any reason to watch this again. I have no desire to watch this again. It's not an offensive movie though. It didn't offend me in terms of what it's about. I mean, it's fine. It's just totally incompetently made. But they're trying. The people on the screen are really, really trying. And maybe that says something about Disney, that they're putting people who are talented on the screen and just giving them absolutely nothing to work with as of late. So in terms of kids, it's decent. I would not recommend it. I can't recommend this over like the Super Mario Brothers movie. Would I recommend it over Strange World? Yes. Would I recommend it over Lightyear? Yeah, it's about Lightyear quality. So it's not good. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But the people who have been telling you that it's great, it's good, if you don't like it, then you're a bad person. Well, I mean, objectively, this is just not good. So it's a 3 out of 10 for me. It's a 3 out of 10. It's watchable, but not pleasant. And in terms of just the technical parts of it, in terms of just how movies are made, this was made by people who should not attempt this again with any kind of budget. They need to redeem themselves before they get another chance at this. Yeah, really, really bad on that front. But, folks, that's what I've got for you. I hope you enjoyed the review. We'll keep at it. We'll watch the box office. Tomorrow morning, we'll have an idea of where this thing is going, and we'll probably have a video out looking at the box office tracking for it for the 4-day. If not, we'll hold till Sunday if things are looking a little wonky, but we will keep you up to date. And again, if it does well, great. I will let you know. I'll say, hey, I was wrong. It's going to do, better than I expected. The second weekend, though, is the one to watch on this because there's going to be a lot of people who just want to see The Little Mermaid. They've not been following along. We'll see what word of mouth does. Such a weird, strange movie. It's very weird. Anyway, all right, folks, that's it. If you like content like this, click the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Have you seen The Little Mermaid? Was it as bizarre as I say it is, or did you find it to be fun? What did you think about King Trident, the weird-looking King Trident, pointing his trident directly at Ariel like he's going to kill her at the end? That's so bad. Let me know down in the comments below. And folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and even when it's not a good movie, keep having fun.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank.
What? Why?
Because you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?